Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Rhee and myself, Coach David Syvertsen. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset.
Welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. This is Coach Dave Syvertsen. I'm Sam Rhee, as always. Our first topic is one that we just actually finished, and so it's very fresh in our minds right now, and that is the Bison Bowl. It's
Bison Bowl VII.
That's right.
Bison Bowl VI, sorry.
It's our intramural. He's already thinking about next year. It's our intramural competition that we have here at the gym, and it's been a while since we had it because of COVID last year, so it's pretty exciting. We're not gonna recap it exactly and go through every little bit of it because that would be really boring, but we certainly want to touch about highlights, things that we think are important from it, and also some of the background to it and behind the scenes, sort of look at it and sort of figure out how it came to be and how it sprung from your head and how it came to fruition. You want to sort of talk about the Bison Bowl? How many years? You said 6.
Yeah.
You know, how it started.
We started it 2015, so that was our second summer in business. First summer was in 2014. Obviously, we didn't have enough people that year to do anything, but it wasn't even a thought back then. But in 2015, we had a decent amount of people, and I think some people they were in it for a while, and they said, like, all right, what is kind of like the next stage for me if I want to kind of take this to a high level? And for most people, it is a competitive format, which we've talked about a few times. Signing up for a competition, spending 9 hours at a gym that's an hour away just is not feasible for most people. And most competitions are $80, $90, $100, and you get a t-shirt. So we kind of wanted to just throw the idea out there that, you know, we can come up with a fully programmed for our gym, for our clientele competition. When I say competition, we've talked about this in the past as well. That means there's judges, an official scoring system, a balanced programming that basically exposes everyone's strengths and weaknesses. All right. And we want to keep it as safe and as time friendly as possible. So we decided to do it back then. I still remember the first one. I think I remember the first event being, it was like a really fun, I think it had a mile, a run, a row, and rower facing burpees. And basically it was teams of 3, and basically everyone had to pick one movement. I remember that event especially because it was so intense, and I was like, I knew right there, I was like, it's going to be a good day. People are cheering for each other. And there's some community building type stuff that goes into it as well. We'll probably talk about that later on. But without recapping every single athlete from every single team yesterday, the premise of it is I want people to put themselves in this kind of environment, whether you're in the sport or not, whether you're competing or not. I think it's a really healthy thing for people to do mentally and physically, because as diverse as CrossFit programming is day to day, it still gets monotonous. You're still most of the time around the same people. You have the same coach. The coach does the same stretches, the same warm-ups. And even though there's so much variety within the CrossFit programming, there's still some stuff there still are some things that are very repetitive. So what can you do without having to change your workout program to not make it too repetitive? And I think putting yourself in a competitive format can truly show athletes what they can actually do physically.
That's what we talked about before, the whole sport versus health thing,
right,
and feeling that competitive spirit can sort of show you your strengths or your weaknesses, and especially in a team format, which I love because it, one, takes some of the pressure off of you as an individual,
right,
but 2, it also is like life. You're not living life in isolation. You have to work with people as a team in pretty much everything that you do, whether it's school or education.
And I'll say this about team competing to build off that. I'm actually going to throw a plug to a local CrossFit in the area, CrossFit Waldwick. They just released that they're going to be running a same gender partner competition in October. I think it's October 2nd or 3rd, whatever that first Saturday is. And I was just talking to Liz about it. I was like, man, I would love to get some people here to pair up with each other, whether they're friends or not, I don't care, and go there and compete. And I think one thing it does, other than competing for sport, is I think competing on a team like this. We did teams of 3 at Bison Bowl. It really shows you a different side of CrossFit, and it's humbling, because at the end of the day, when you're on a team with 3 people, one of you is probably really good at something, and then you're probably really bad at something compared to them, all right? So you have to be humble enough to be like, I don't have muscle ups. I'm not going to help you guys out at all. I have to do all the dumbbells, right? And I'm trying to think if there's a team with a really good example. We had more girl teams that had a good example of this, but I'll use my wife's team. Ashley had Laura Thierry, and Nicole DiCarlo. And Nicole DiCarlo is coming off some time off from training. She hasn't been on the rig in a while, a little bit of shoulder pain. So she, in an event that had muscle-ups, pull-ups, toes to bar, pretty high volume, and a lot of dumbbell work, she didn't want to go on the rig. And it was a smart decision, A, for their team, but B, she needed to be smart about protecting her shoulder.
Yeah.
And Laura and Ash are pretty good on the rig. I would say they're above average on the rig. And they had to really – oh, sorry. That's, you can just tell me. Yeah, I know we're on camera, but Dave, stop hitting the table. I think that it was humbling for all of them to be like, you know what? My weakness are the dumbbells. I can't do dumbbell thrusters. The lunges crush me. I'm going to have somebody else do them for me so that our team can maximize our output, right? Where Nicole had to be humble and say, hey, I'm not doing anything on the rig. And I think the way they proceeded in that workout, Nicole did every single rep on the dumbbells.
Yeah.
I just saw her. She just came by to pick up something from the gym.
Yeah.
And I was like, you got to be dying right now. Like, you got to be sore. And she's like, no, I'm fine. And she's a strong girl. So, and Ashley and Laura, if you had to really break them down as athletes, you would say one of their weaknesses is weightlifting, just moving exterior loads. Right? But they can do really well with gymnastics. And I just think I look at that team and I watch Laura and Ashley dominate wall walks, and Nicole's a little slower. I see Nicole hit a huge weight on the complex, and Laura and Ashley got stuck towards the beginning. And obviously in those moments, you get caught up and say, oh, I just hurt my team. I suck. I can't do this. But you know what? Someone on your team is thinking the same exact thought
about a different
workout.
Yep.
And this is what CrossFit is.
Well, I think some of it is ham and egg, which is sort of where you complement each other.
Yeah.
And the teams that did well strategized exactly the way you did, they did, and planned out who's going to do what.
Yep.
I will say Nicole probably feels pretty good. And I want to just throw out a plug because she rehabbed well in terms of just because you can't use your shoulders, I think she probably did 5 million lunges over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
She
was ready for the lunges.
So she was ready for it because that's a shout out for those who have injuries or have issues. You can always rehab something else and work on that and get stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. When you have something that just doesn't feel right, shoulder, knee, back, whatever, right? And if you do CrossFit long enough, it's going to happen.
Right.
All right. That doesn't mean you sit at home and rest until it's better.
Right.
That's actually probably the worst thing you can do.
Right.
And there's so much that you can work on that will help you out in the future.
Right.
If you really approach an injury, a tweak, soreness, whatever you want to call it, and say, all right, I'm just not going to use my shoulder. I'm not going to use I'm not going to use my knees. I'm not going to use my back because there are other things you can work on.
The other thing I also loved is even if, for example, those guys, their strength wasn't their forte, they still managed to work as hard as they could on that barbell ladder and contribute as much as they could. So it wasn't just like, okay, I suck at this, so you're going to have, in some situations with the lunges and whatever, but for whatever weaknesses they had, they worked on them as well. And I saw a lot of athletes who said, I wasn't good at the barbell, and they crushed it. Me, you, a lot of themselves about what they could accomplish.
Yeah, I think I got a text. I think it was Heidi. I think one of the events was a barbell complex where you had to do a deadlift, touch and go clean, hang clean, shoulder overhead. It was the complex from the CrossFit Open, 21.4 technically, but it was right after 21.3. And we worked on it on Tuesday leading up. It was programmed for Bison. So 4 days before the competition. And I want to say Heidi said she hit 60 or 65, and at the comp, she hit 75 or 80. So she PR'd that complex, right? And she worked on that complex. She's been working on clean. She's working on deadlift. She's been working with Dan Dodd from Tri-State Barbell on all of her lifting techniques. And again, when you're training day to day, you don't always see the progress. The only reason she hit that weight was that she signed up for the comp, put herself in an uncomfortable position, and I can speak for her. She was not comfortable going in, but what did she do? She put herself out there. She made a brave decision to go out there and, you know what, I'm going to put, and honestly, there were probably 100 people watching at any given point yesterday.
Yep.
That's a lot of pressure. Yep. So that's an example of someone that, hey, you work on things, you might not see the progress in the moment, but when it really matters, that's when it shows up.
The other thing I liked is when you see a lot of comps, you see athletes that are putting themselves in bad positions primarily because of technique.
Right.
And I did not see that, or at least very little of it yesterday.
Yep. You're always going to see it a little bit,
Yep.
but predominantly people moved very well.
They moved really well. And
Yeah.
listen, comps by definition is you're entering the realm of sport.
Yes.
So the risk of injury is always possible. Just if you ran a 5K,
Yep.
it's different than your daily run. Your risk of injury goes up when you start in a competitive environment.
Yes, and if anyone doesn't understand that, just go watch sports for a week.
Right.
You're going to see people get hurt.
I mean, rec softball, that's a minefield. Let's put it that way. So, but in the situations that I saw yesterday, I felt our athletes moved really well. And of course I'm bragging because it's my gym, but I want to say it was like, for example, Heidi, she got to that point not just by trying to muscle it and putting herself at risk. Her technique looked very clean.
Pretty good, yeah. And we can say this, we've been to a lot of competitions, whether we've competed or went and supported, watched people. And at those competitions, like, that's the stuff you see on YouTube that gives CrossFit a bad rap. You're just like, oh my gosh, how is your wrist not broken, right? And for the most part, yesterday, I really was happy with how well people moved on those heavy barbells. And hey, pretty much everyone got to failure at the barbell.
Yeah.
We had a few people get to the end and finish the whole thing. I think less than 5, though. And so if you lift to failure, but your movement is still quality, or you lift to near failure and your movement is still quality, that's something an athlete should be very proud about. I even think more so than whatever weight that you hit.
I think the nice thing about an intramural is it's a safer environment.
Yeah, for sure.
And I want to run through the events a little bit because I want to talk about how you thought of them. And I mean, I was going to talk about that later, but we might as well talk about it now.
For it.
Run through the events and why you programmed the specific events that you did.
So big picture is I always want to have an event that really gives strength a true test.
Of course.
So and you can go so many different directions with that. My original thought was we were going to be lifting off a rack, like a complex off a rack, a squat overhead off the rack.
Oh, like the 4-rep max front squat.
Or even like a 4-rep squat, 1-rep mat jerk. Okay. Like where like you have to do squat and then do a jerk at the end, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So that was kind of like the original plan. But no matter, I mean, we've done cleans in the past. We usually have done something like complex related. It was never really like a 1-rep max. That gets a little dicey sometimes, but I wanted to test strength. I wanted to test body weight movement, meaning, hey, you're really tired. Can you still move your body weight well? And then also, what is your capacity within moving your body well? Because everyone can move their body well for a little bit of time. Can you do it 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes? So that was event 2. Event 2 was a 3-round workout where somebody had to row 250, 200 meters, guys 250, ladies 200. And then you had to do X amount of wall walks and then X amount of synchro bar facing burpees. That is a body weight workout, obviously, right? And there's no exterior load moved whatsoever. So obviously your smaller athletes, your athletes that are more conditioned, they have their time to shine in that workout, right? With the wall walks and the burpees. Where the big lifters, the guys that don't like the little bodyweight stuff, they had their time to shine in event 1. Event 3 to me always should be something that's mixed modal, or a mix of strength and gymnastics and conditioning capacity. Basically what you would call classic CrossFit, where everything gets tested. So if you have a team full of people that can't move weight, you were kind of screwed yesterday. If you have a team full of people that can't do gymnastics under duress, you were kind of screwed. Or if you had 3, so that's kind of where, from like a big picture, without even getting specific with the workouts, you have a strength, you have a body weight endurance type workout, and then you have a mixed modal type.
I would say the body weight endurance was, I mean, I'm hazarding a guess. I didn't take a poll, but it seemed like it was the most challenging for people.
People were messed up after that.
Yeah, because, doing all those bar facing burpees on top of the row, on top of the wall walks. People were suffering in that 3rd round.
So we did structure the workouts that basically everyone at some point could get about a minute of rest, right? So we did structure it that way. And we also, we'll talk about this a little bit later, I think, but we structured it that you could game it a little bit, that the person that rode really did not have to contribute much on the wall walks. But so the synchro burpees, I'm pretty sure that was the first time we did that in the Bison Bowl. I love stuff like that.
I do.
In a team competition. Because it really forces people to work to someone else's level, whether it's a level up or level down.
Right.
And it puts some pressure, but it makes people communicate.
I saw people whose motor weren't as developed as others. They tried so hard.
Yeah, right.
That really pushed them.
Yeah.
And I hope it was a wake-up call to some people.
Yep.
Like, listen, you can move a lot of weight. You're
Yep.
really strong, but dude, you got to build up that motor.
We talked about this after the Open. Like, how do I get better for next year's Open? It's like one of the foundation steps. You have to be able to move your body.
Yeah.
You can't depend on exterior load to be good at CrossFit. The majority of the Open was you're not moving an exterior load.
I love the fact that I saw I can't think of a single person who did not push as hard as they could. All
Yeah.
of them were taxed at the end.
Absolutely.
Pretty much everyone was on the ground gasping.
Yep.
Some ran out of the gym to maybe throw up. I don't know.
I saw that. Yeah.
And I will say, and then the teammates also had to learn patience too.
Yeah.
Listen, you can't just sit there and get pissed off at someone because they're not doing burpees as fast as you.
Yep.
You have to learn that you're a team.
Yeah.
And I saw and people learned. There were no reps because people were down on the ground.
Right.
They got up too quick. They
Yep.
were like expecting this other
They were
person.
too much in their own zone.
They were and so
Yeah.
you had to be sort of getting your feedback from your teammates.
Yep.
And
So I'll say this. This is where strategy is so important in team competing. And you could tell that some of the teams really talked to each other about this in the week leading up to the competition and the teams that did not. And hey, it's for fun. It's a leisure competition. I'm not criticizing anybody that did not communicate with each other. But it was an obvious difference who talked and who didn't. When you think about 3 people doing synchro bar facing burpees, who should go in the middle? It's like, wait, what do you mean? Who should go in the middle? Like, why don't we just all pick our own bar?
Right.
The person in the middle should be the person that does not. That I would say your slowest burpee person should be in the middle, because you don't want the fast burpee person or the more conditioned athlete to have to look in 2 different directions to see
check.
where everyone is.
That's right.
So you have your faster people, they're on the outside looking in.
Yep.
They can see both people.
Yep.
All right. My slow person, right? Now they're getting up, I'll get up.
Right.
All right. They're struggling, I can slow down. Where the person in the middle, if you have to look in both directions,
Right.
it's just too much. You can't do it.
And you have to have some patience too. Like, you can't just jump up really quick, jump down and
Yep.
wait.
Yeah.
If your teammate's getting gassed, slow the pace down.
Yes, right.
And give them a second, because
Yeah.
if you redline them early, they will not recover.
And I also like seeing how people treat each other in that scenario. Is it support? Is it a little bit of belittling? Because I'll tell you what, I know several people yesterday, they were the fast burpee person on their team, so they had to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
They probably wanted to go faster.
Of course.
How did they act? But that same person was the one that got beat up on the barbell.
Right.
How did that person act on the barbell? Like, you're thinking the same thoughts as your teammate, just in a different event.
Why can't you lift more?
Yeah, right. So what if someone said that to you?
Yeah.
You'd give the double bird and be like, I'm out of here. F CrossFit. This is stupid, right? This is an opportunity. The Bison Bowl is an opportunity. I don't want to get too deep into this, but it's such an opportunity for people to build others up and realize.
I think they did. For the most
for
part.
sure. Absolutely.
I love
That's
that.
why it's such a good day.
Yeah.
It's unlike any other day that we have here, because you're doing it together. The Open's a little different because we're all by ourselves. We support each other, but we're also trying to beat each other.
Right.
And we can get into like how we make the teams and how.
Yes, in a second. But I wanted to also give a shout out to the judges.
Yeah.
Because the judges were the athletes.
Yeah.
And I have to say, the standards, listen, it's an intramural comp. It's
Yeah.
not like
not-
no one's going to the games,
Yep.
but people cared about the standards.
Absolutely.
They really worked to meet the standards, and the judges, even if they weren't in the same division, they were really working to
Yeah.
keep people to safe standards
Yeah.
and also compete fairly.
Yep. I mean, and every time we have a competition here, whether it's the Bison Classic, which is an out of gym competition, and the Bison Bowl, we always start off the group meeting at the start that there's zero tolerance for arguing with the judge. And I actually do think I've done both. I think judging is harder than competing. I really do. And especially when you have someone that's kind of like on the line of not hitting the standards. And I do think we also had a lot of judges that they had to judge the heat after they just worked out.
They were beat. They were so tired.
It started getting hot later in the day, that third workout. But I was like, hey, we got to keep this thing going. So you're judging. And yeah, I echo what you say. I give them a lot of credit for being honest. Like, I heard a lot of no reps. I was walking around videotaping a lot of things, and I heard judges say no rep. And I'm like, you know what? It takes some courage to tell someone a no rep.
Absolutely.
Because you feel bad.
Yep.
But you gotta do things right.
Let me ask you on a programming note. How did you figure out on the ladder, the barbell ladder, the weight?
That was really tough.
Because a lot of the women, especially, did not like that jump from
Yes, there was one button.
105
All right, so here you
to
go.
125.
Yeah. So, and honestly, I don't even know if I have this right, but so I'm not going to act like I do, but I do try to keep certain ratios between guys' weights and girls' weights. No disrespect intended. We have more guys that can get further in that ladder than the girls. All right, we do.
Yeah,
we probably had 15 guys.
If you look at the pro athletes, it's the same way.
Yes.
The heaviest weights men lift are greater
exponentially higher than
the
girls,
pro
yeah.
women
Right.
athletes.
I still think the girls here are better athletes than the guys, but we won't.
I agree with you.
But when it comes to weightlifting,
Yeah.
And at the start, we did not know, like we weren't sure if we were going to have guys and girls compete against each other. We almost did that, just one RX division.
Mm-hmm.
We decided against it, per my consultant, Sam Rhee, the night before the competition. That's really when we decided to do that. But knowing that there was a possibility they would be competing against each other, I couldn't make things lighter for the girls. So guys had a big jump too. Guys went from 155 to 185. That's
Okay.
a 30-pound jump. And then the rest of the way, it was a 20-pound jump. Okay. The girls had 10-pound jumps. And then they had one that was a 20-pound jump.
But that was the now.
That was like a breaking point for a lot of women.
Yeah,
it
because-
was the same barbell that had the big jump.
Did you see that in the same for the guys though, going from 155 to 85?
No, and
that was a big break. That wasn't a big.
There
break.
was not a big break. It was not, but that's just because we have more stronger guys. And no, I'm not grammatically incorrect. We have more men that are stronger. That's really what it is when it comes to lifting. And in this gym, I'm not even going to make a broad statement with CrossFit or even broader than that. It's just in this gym, we have more guys that can move more weight. That's just the way it is.
I think I saw a couple athletes who most people would say are light and thin, framed, like a Britt Storms. And they blasted through 125.
Britt's a great lifter.
She hit 145.
She's a gamer too.
Yeah.
I've told her this all the time. She has a lot of grit. And I know she's probably a good example of someone that feels like she could do more 3-4 years ago than she can now. And multiple kids will do that to you. A full-time career will do that to you. Age will do that to you. But when I watch her really get after it, I'm like, I don't see any difference between you and 3 years ago. And she has that. I think experience plays so much into how well someone does at a competition. Absolutely. And she's been in this environment a lot. She's done the open a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think she's competed a ton, but she goes hard every time she's here. And I think that years and years and years of experience of doing that, it shows up at a Bison Bowl like that.
I think this is where you can't, as an athlete, look at how the event is set up and use that against yourself. So you can't say, well, I can do 105. He should have had 115 in there.
So I'll give you another.
I can't even do 125, so why bother?
You heard that a few times.
And I'm going to
That's a breaking point for a lot of women.
And I'm going to self-defeat. And so the bottom line is there's not a, I mean, I don't want to be an a-hole about it, but it's not a whole lot of sympathy on my part. No. If you had broken into 125, you could have as a games type sports athlete, you would have broken through a big barrier that a lot of other people did. And if you didn't do that, well, guess what you should be doing between now and next year is work on getting to 125. And I will tell you that 90% of the people who are complaining about not hitting 125 could hit 125.
Absolutely.
Their potential is there.
Almost everybody, and I mean almost everybody, if they clean up movement, they will hit more weight. They don't even need to get stronger. If they clean up their movement pattern, their pull off the ground, their speed to extension, their knuckles, their elbows through, where their eyes are at the top of the lift, right? Like those simple things, not easy, but simple, would elevate their lifts. And I really don't think like you said, there's no sympathy, there's care on our side.
No, there's care.
And we will definitely do what we can to help see people out. But I just want to also put this out there that I could have made 10-pound jumps for the entire, I could have, and for the guys, but the ratios, if you do some quick math in your head, the ratios will get thrown off. If guys are always going up 20 and girls are always going up 10, you have to have one of those 30-20 jumps. And that's what we did. And maybe if I made another reason why, if I always made 20-pound jumps and I always made 10-pound jumps, I would have done one of two things. I would have had to add another 2 or 3 barbells at the end. Because I wanted I know what I wanted the ending weights to be because I thought a couple people could get there and do it.
What were they again?
285 for the guys and 175 for the girls.
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
But if you're adding more barbells, you're adding more time. There's some like logistic thinking here, right? Like I want it to be done by X time. And I also didn't want to have too much volume for the people that got to the end. Like we had a considerable amount of people get to those last 2 barbells. It's a lot of lifting, right? And they probably maybe they couldn't have gotten to that last barbell because they were just getting physically taxed. So I just think that I'm not even going to say that like I picked the perfect weights for it. I will never say that, but there's more to that than just like what you can lift, right? This is what we've talked about, owning your issues, right? If you could hit 105, you could not hit 125, or guys, you can hit 155, you can't hit 185, but you hit somewhere in the middle. The only thing you should do is get stronger.
Right.
And that's it. That's the end of the discussion. There's no, it should be programmed this. No, get stronger.
The other thing is that it's nice that you use the open complex because it tested a number of different movement patterns. It wasn't just, can you pick it from the ground?
Right.
You have to do it from a hang.
Yep.
You got to put it overhead.
Yeah, it's funny how so many people get caught up on different parts of that.
Yeah.
There are a couple of people that like rip through the cleans. No big deal. Couldn't do the overhead.
Yeah. I'm sort of one of those guys too.
Or other people that if they get the cleans, the overhead one would be
they will
default.
always make the jerk.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So that was a nice sort of thing.
Yeah, that was fun.
So let's talk a little bit more behind the scenes. So making up the teams. I thought one of the reasons why the competition was so close was because the teams were very, very even in a lot of ways, but in ways that you wouldn't necessarily think. It wasn't that everyone has an equal skill set or are matched well. There were some very I don't want to say unusual combinations, but combinations of people I wouldn't have thought that were super competitive.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think one of the things that you really have to do first is so if you want to really get deep into how we make these teams, and you have to get people to sign up first.
Right.
And that's why we make a deadline. You have to sign up by this time, and then I take a day or two to make the teams, and then it's released, and then the workouts are released after that. I already know what the workouts are kind of gist-wise, like generally before I make the teams, but I don't know who's going to sign up, especially in the summer. And that's why I always feel bad in the summer. There's always people that are away every week, no matter what. Like I know there's a lot of people that wanted to do it, but they were away. That's their family vacation.
Yep.
And that'll be the case no matter what. So once you get the list, then you have to figure out, is this going to be teams of 2? Is this going to be teams of 3? Is it going to be teams of 4? Is it going to be co-ed? Is it going to be same gender? And you can only do that when you have all the numbers.
You've had different combos in the past.
And it's all based on numbers. It's never, I did not go into the Bison Bowl thinking it's teams of 3. I did not.
Okay.
I actually would love one year to be 2 guys, 2 girls on the same team. Yeah. But you need the numbers to match up. Yeah. And now we have RX and scaled. In the past, we've done this 2 years. We did RX and scaled on the same team.
Yeah.
And we almost did that this year, but I think those days might be done. It's just, it's really tough to run a good comp that way. But anyway, so these are all these things you have to think about, and you can't literally plan it until you have who's here. So once you have that lined up, you make the teams. You want to make the teams that we had this situation yesterday. There were so many ties for first, second, third, fourth, fifth place in multiple events, but also at the end of 3 events. I had to go 6 or 7 tiebreakers deep to find out who was on the podium or who won. Like the guys, for example, guys RX, they all finished with 9 points at the end.
Right, you said that they all had the same placing.
They all won an event.
Yeah.
And then all of their other finishes were all 4th.
Right.
That's crazy. So that adds up to 9 points.
Wow.
And a couple of them were tied for 4th in an event. So it's like literally if one of them got just a little better ranking in one event, they win.
And how much difference were there in some of those events? I think it was very small.
I would say within 3 to 5%.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. So when you make teams, if you want to make a balanced team, you need to know the workouts or know the gist of the workouts. Because if that was handstand push-ups instead of muscle-ups yesterday, the teams would have been different.
So look at a team, for example, this was let's look at the 2, like the winners on
winning teams, yeah.
Yeah, so one was Tim R.
Scherer,
Rob Scherer, and Sean O'Hara. So how'd you make up that team?
So basically, you need to make sure if you're going to put muscle-ups into an event, and we had some difficult muscle-ups yesterday. It was 18 total, but they were like tired muscle-ups, right? A lot of people think they can do muscle-ups, but then doing them after everything else, they don't have them. So you look at a team, you're like, all right, that's the first thing I made the teams on. Does everyone have at least someone that can do a muscle-up?
Okay.
And then ideally it's 2.
Okay.
Unless you have one of those people that can really rip through muscle ups, right? And that's the first step of creating a team. Is look at the workout where you really need to know. Because my worst nightmare would be I make a team that's a balanced team, but no one can do a muscle up. So the whole team is just standing there.
Now, in that team, all 3 I have seen do muscle ups and workouts.
Right. So I would say Rob is the best gymnast on the team, right? Tim can do them, and he's a strong kid too. So, and he's young. And Sean has made so much progress in our gym over the past few years.
Yes.
But I've seen several instances where he'll fail a muscle up, right?
Yeah.
He gets himself up there.
It's a tiredness
yes,
aspect.
it's a fatigue thing.
Yeah.
But he's physically capable.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a team. It's like, all right, I know Rob's basically going to be the guy that does most of the muscle ups. And I think he did. I'm pretty sure he did.
He broke off. He ripped off. I was his judge. He ripped off 7 in one set.
Yeah. So and that's a huge, for that workout, that's huge.
Yeah.
And then I knew Tim would be able to bang. But the thing is, I also want to create scenarios where the team needs to talk with each other about how they're going to break things up. Because if they didn't talk or didn't really map things out, it might have just been like, hey, dude, like I'm good at toes bar and I'm good at dumbbell thrusters. I'll do this. And then you get to the muscle ups and someone can't step up.
Yeah.
Right. So that was I will say the guys were, again, a little easier to put together than the girls because most teams had 2 guys that can bang them out. Some teams had 3. That was one of the teams that had 3 guys that have muscle ups.
I think strategy played a big role.
Huge.
So, and also the ability to adjust on the fly. So when they were getting tired on some of these rounds, they would tag someone in rather than struggle to
stand there,
sit there for more reps.
Well, I mean, so me, you, and Coach Adam, we tested the workouts and we had a plan for the first time through, and then the second time through the workout, we were the AMRAP. We were just like, hey, let's just tag in and out. Go do what you can, come back, right?
Yep.
The only time that doesn't work is when you have someone that can't do something, right? So there has to be some thought in there. Another, with the girls team, so you talk about Liz, Susan, and Marissa.
Yep.
Susan and Marissa don't have the muscle up yet.
Correct.
When Liz is on, she's got as good a muscle up as anybody.
Yeah.
So they had to assume, and this is at the end of the workout, right? You had 21 lunges, 21 toes to bar 2 times.
Right.
15 snatches, 15 pull-ups 2 times.
Right.
And then you had 9 thrusters, 9 muscle-ups 2 times.
Right.
They had Liz is probably their best butterfly because their best pull-up athlete because she can butterfly.
Yep.
A lot quicker.
Super fast.
But should you really have her go do those, knowing that she's the only one on that team that has a muscle up right now?
I think they only had her do 1 set of 5 in those 2 out of 30.
Out of 30 pull-ups, she did 5.
Yeah.
So because you had to know that she's going to have to get up there and she's not going to she can't tag out on the muscle ups.
Right.
So they kept her fresh-ish, kind of fresh, right?
Yep.
For the muscle ups. And I think she told me she did 7-2.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Right. And then I think the second time through, I want to say it was 4-3-2.
Yeah. It's agonizing though, because once you lose them.
Yeah.
But
what Liz does well, when Liz gets tired, she doesn't change her movement.
That is true.
She doesn't like, all right, I'm getting really tired.
Start chicken winging it.
I'm gonna try to get my elbow on top of the bar, internally rotate my shoulder, and then come back up. When she fails her rep, she fails her rep.
That scares me when people do that.
Yeah, no, I do too. And so another part of that workout is it's not just Liz doing the muscle ups. Like Susan and Marissa had to rip through a lot of dumbbell work.
Yes.
And Susan's a small girl. She's picking up 2 35-pound dumbbells. Right? Like how many people yesterday were dumbbell lunging, dumbbell thrusters with 2/3 of her body weight?
I was just surprised how many people actually ripped out so many unbroken lunges and snatches.
And we do a lot of unilateral work here. That's something that we've pushed for probably 2 years now.
Yeah.
And it shows up in an event like that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when I was watching Susan rip through lunges, I was like, whoa. You can't go much faster than that.
I saw a lot of teams ripping through those lunges.
Yeah,
it was really impressive to see them really big. And they usually did that. Most teams had to protect their bar muscle up guy.
Right.
And so they had that same strategy.
Yep.
And it was impressive.
So all this like back and forth we're talking about, it's these teams, they strategized. And like, we know that the Bison Bowl is not a huge deal, right? It's not publicized that much. You don't get a lot of money for winning. You get candy bars though.
Right.
Winners got $100,000.
$100,000. But the Twix were actually the better ones. So people who were actually in third place were happier.
Yeah. Shout out to Nick Squire. But I do think that when you sign up for something, this is what we talk about sometimes. It's like, why not go all in on it? Meet with each other on Zoom on a Wednesday night for an hour and talk about how to break these workouts down. We saw pairs here meeting here Tuesday night at 8 o'clock to practice synchro burpees. And for what? It's just they're just so used to putting a lot of effort into whatever they're doing. And all these teams that strategize, like Susan especially, like I've been interacting with Susan in a few different ways over the years. Like she is very like, yo, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. Sorry, I'm tapping the table again.
It's okay.
And but from the outside perspective, you might be like, oh, taking it too seriously, get over yourself. But why not strategize a little bit, talk with each other? Because at the end of the day, when you're in the moment, when you're in the comp, you do freaking care.
I think, not to make this a gender thing also, but I saw only a couple of the guys' teams and a lot of the women's teams really focused. And when we demoed them, there's no doubt that practicing would help anyone incredibly. And if you're a games type, like any kind of competitive athlete, not even if you're games, like it really is a good way to strategize in general. Why would you ever do anything in life that was important to you without putting some thought into it, planning it? I mean, we do that. We should be doing that for everything in life. I
agree.
So if you do care about it at all, and listen, if you may not care so much about your daily workouts, but that's why this is a step up, because you will have 100 people watching you.
Other people are depending on you.
Yes, your team is depending on you. It behooves you to take your life strategy of preparation is key. If you're going to tell your kids, hey, listen, preparation is important. Make sure you don't go in with any situation with their pants down. This would be a good mini situation, microcosm of life to say, this is how I should be executing everything else. And when it does, it pays off for you in a little way or in a big way, that builds your self-confidence. So when I saw these athletes hitting, maybe they didn't go through the entire complex, but they hit 125 for the first time on a
lot of PRs yesterday. A lot of PRs,
I mean, how much confidence does that actually instill in you? A tremendous amount of confidence.
I completely agree.
I mean, how can you be on a stage and perform and do something you haven't done before and not have that?
That's what we want. We want people to be more confident.
And even, let's suppose it was the opposite, and I've been in this situation, and you've seen me in comps, double unders, fuck up.
Shrewsbury,
Right. It really, it motivates you. It pushes you. And if I was a guy who said, wow, those burpees killed me, and I slowed down my team, well, you know what? That would, just like I did in that comp before, it motivated me to work on what
I remember that
I knew
very well.
What bothered me and what really slowed me down, what hurt me. And
everybody needs to lose. Everybody needs to lose. Everybody needs to lose. I saw this yesterday. I see it a lot at competition with people that I work with that are competing. You have to lose. And I'll say this, when you win and when you lose, you get equal benefit from it. When you win, the benefit is immediate. It's immediate gratification. When you lose, the gratification, the benefit of losing probably will not show up for a while. But you have to understand that if you had a rough event yesterday, you had a rough day yesterday, you came in last place in this, none of us are going to remember if you struggled yesterday. So don't worry about that. Don't let exterior opinions impact what your thought is on the Bison Bowl in relation to yourself. But if you had a struggle point or you're upset with the day in general, that is going to help you, right? I remember you were on the floor at Shrewsbury. You were terrible on the jump rope, and you had double unders, but something happened, and you were frustrated, you were embarrassed. 100 people there watching, but now you use that for fuel to get better. You benefited from that situation, even though you were probably mortified in the moment.
If I had gotten by and skinned through, I would never have worked on my double unders.
So your daughter, Sasha, she was on the podium in her first ever competition yesterday. Awesome. Proud of her. Really proud of her. That's not going to happen every time she competes, whether it's at the Bison Bowl or if she ever signs up for a competition on the road.
She would have gotten benefit either way.
Absolutely.
And you're right. Every athlete is going to benefit either way. And the nice thing is the stakes are low enough that it's not going to scar you for life. But it's big enough where it really does impact you in some way, shape, or form, especially if you're an athlete, especially if you go to this gym, especially if you know everyone. It's the little things that lead to the big things.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.